So I want to talk to you about why not to get into FPV quads. So I personally like, and I'll be in it for the long haul. On YouTube, you're going to see a lot of builds of cool looking quads, 5 inches, all sorts of sizes. You're going to see flight footage and people having fun. What you're not going to see generally is the behind the scenes logistics of what's required to go out and fly. So today, I'm actually meeting up with a friend of mine who is not familiar with FPV quads, and I'm going to be sharing with him a pair of my spectator goggles, and I'll be wearing my own goggles, and I'll be flying a tiny whoop. And so we're going to go over all the batteries and everything required to make that what sounds like a simple thing happen. And so you may be a little bit overwhelmed. If you're not, then good. Just want to make sure that you're ready for the logistics, because there's charging, there's maintenance, there's just keeping track of what batteries are charged, what batteries are not charged, what is in storage charge, planning your day when you're going to be using these batteries, because you don't want to be storing the batteries fully charged for too long. And you also don't want to be charging batteries if you don't plan to use them. So there is a lot of planning involved, but we're going to go over just a glimpse of just kind of an everyday thing so that you can see kind of behind the scenes of what's required. All right, take care. We'll see you in a little second. Okay, so here's the setup of what's going on. My friend will be wearing these spectator goggles, and that blue battery you see right here is going to be what powers that guy. And I'll be using this transmitter, and normally I would just use the micro USB, plug it in, and charge the battery, but I haven't used this in a few days. So I had put this in storage charge, and when I charged it, I wanted to see what the voltage really looks like, so I did plug it in there. It's since complete, so that is in the remote. And so this battery here is going to be charging my goggles, or powering my goggles in the field. And these are the Tiny Whoop batteries, and another set of Tiny Whoop batteries, because they don't last more than a few minutes. And then again, this is the battery that powers the goggles themselves. So for one outing, all we're really doing is flying a quad for a few minutes, but still need to charge the goggle battery, still need to charge the batteries for the quad itself, and then for the spectator goggles as well. So if this isn't overwhelming to you, then that's good. If it is, then you may want to think twice about how deep you want to get into this. Obviously, you don't need to have two chargers. You may have a different one. A lot of times people start off with a charger that only has one port, as opposed to this dual channel one that allows you to charge different batteries at the same time. This particular one actually has 4 ports, and lets you charge 4 different batteries at the same time. There's something called parallel charging, where you can charge the same battery of the same voltage with one channel. But the idea overall, what I'm trying to communicate here is there may be different types of batteries being charged for different purposes, and just maintaining them and planning this is possibly a bigger deal than you may think without really considering it, when you're just watching YouTube videos of flight footage and not seeing the behind the scenes activity that goes into planning the day. A couple more things. One is, yes, if you have one charger with one port, you can charge all of these individually, but you can imagine that it would take exponentially longer. So from storage charge, each battery charging at 1C roughly takes half an hour. So half an hour, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, 2 hours. So if you're going to do it individually, all this is going to take 2 hours, plus that other one, which would be 2.5 hours. And another thing is, if you're going to plan a day, an outing, like an event where you're driving fairly far to fly somewhere, then you may want to have a larger battery to field charge. So charging all these again in the field. In order to do that, you're going to need a larger battery to charge. So on top of this, you would have basically what I call a source battery. And you would plug that in there, and you would charge that big brick of battery to bring in the field, so you can do all this again in the field. So there is quite a bit going on here for something that seems really simple, but it's something worth considering if you're seriously going to get into this but haven't gotten into it yet. Some of you might be curious about the pricing of all this stuff, so let's just kind of go over it generally. So each of these batteries costs $6. This series cable is about $7. This charger is $70. This adapter was probably $2 or $3, $6 or $7, $2 or $3. This LiPo safe is about $3, I'd say, and this charger was retails about $120. So that gives you an idea of just this setup to do what we did today. You can obviously use these chargers to charge other batteries. So this one is a good investment. This one I have a video on the flaws of it and why it's not so good. But you do want to get a charger that is something that you can grow into, that you can use for multiple types of batteries, depending on if you're into FPV only or if you're into RC cars, RC planes. If you only fly tiny whoops, you may have something smaller and less substantial. But that kind of gives you an idea of pricing on just this setup that we use today. In case you're not overwhelmed yet, let's scare you a little bit more. So we have some parallel boards, more parallel boards. This one's for XT60, for 3S and 4S, but it does not do 2S. This one is XT30 parallel board, and this does 1S, 2S, and 3S. This was an old Octopus charger. I do not recommend using this. These bullet connectors are pretty outdated. Some of you may have caught that these are backwards, and the reason why is one of these cables here, if you look carefully, this is an JST SM connector, and the manufacturer wired these wrong. So this is supposed to be black and this is supposed to be red. So luckily I caught that, and I wasn't able to get the prongs out to swap them back, so I just swapped it on that side. We have more XT30 to XT60 adapters, and I use this for the smaller quads. And then we have a bunch of other adapters and stuff I've acquired over the years. We have a EC3 to JST. We have another parallel board. This one was from my older charger, which does use banana leads. I do not recommend anything with banana leads anymore these days. I have a charging board, not a parallel board, but a charging board. This is for 1S batteries. You can charge them at high voltage as well as standard. And this just plugs in the USB. And then we have these guys. This is how I identify which batteries are charged and which are not charged. So if they're not storage charged, I put a red thing on there. And if they're fully charged, I put a green thing on there. So green to me just means go, red means stop, and that's kind of how I use that logic. And then we have LiPo battery tester, and that's it for here. Okay, so now here we have a little corner of my house where we have a quad in here where the flight controller is broken. We have some tools. The antenna on this tiny Hawk Freestyle 2 has broken off, and I had a hard time soldering them back on, so this is out of commission. This is a USB adapter I use to charge some of the tiny batteries using a charging board. This is actually this guy is the GEP-RC Skip HD3, where I broke off an arm, and this is the 3-inch model, and I purchased a replacement which I thought was this, but it turns out that this is a 2.5-inch frame, which means the propellers don't clear the body. So basically this table is full of stuff that is inoperable, and we have some more parts in here. These are more propellers for the Skip HD3, which I really, really like. And we have flight controller. We have a GPS for a future quad. Straps. And we'll go on under here where we have more gear. And this here is how I store my tiny whoop and kind of smaller quad stuff. So we've got these labeled as different quads that I have, and the various parts, propellers, antennas here, some electronics, some other doodads. What do we have here? More propellers, cords, and yet more propellers. Repair kit. This has some of the M2 screws, and all the race day quad straps that they give you for free. And then we have some old propellers, little USB camera, whoop propellers, Gep RC parts, more stuff. And when your balance cable breaks, you're gonna use this kit to fix that. So this is kind of a little tour of what we have. So I do get a little bit paranoid, and I put my batteries in this cabinet inside an ammo case. And inside the ammo case, we have a lipo safe. And inside the lipo safe, we've got batteries. So this is for my RC car, which is an Arma Big Rock, which looks like this guy. And then we've got two more of those ammo cans. This one has all the 4S batteries for a new drone that I purchased in iFlight Nazgul 5. This one has a bunch of my Tiny Whoop batteries. And then this one is the RC car battery container. Okay, so you've seen the tour. Quads break all the time, and then you need to repair them or purchase new ones. And right now, a lot of the stores like Race Day Quads and Pyro Drone and even Newbie Drone are out of stock of a lot of material and stuff we need to repair stuff with. And so a lot of my quads are currently down, and so a lot of batteries are under storage charge, but you can see how different quads use different batteries, and when they need to be repaired, then you're going to be flying or driving something else which uses different batteries entirely. So you do want to be aware of what battery requirements are for any particular vehicle or aircraft that you're flying or driving, because it can get overwhelming. I mean, there are a lot of batteries going on, and I don't have the biggest collection by far. So ideally for me, I have 8 batteries of one type for each quad. And what that does is that allows me to field charge, so that by the time I'm done with the last battery, the first battery that I used is done charging and I can continue flying. So 8 is ideal, 4 is okay. You're definitely going to want more than 1 or 2 batteries for whether you have an RC car or an FPV quad. But the moral of the story, and the reason I'm putting this video together, is to make you very aware of the relationship of batteries, the selection of batteries, the type, charging, maintenance, planning, all that, just so that you can fly a quad for 5 minutes at a time, or drive an RC car for 15, 20 minutes at a time. So both those hobbies require these LiPo batteries, and there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes to allow all that fun to happen. So if you're not excited about the maintenance, the storage, the planning, then it may not be something that you want to get too deep into. So that's just something I want you to be aware of. It's a great hobby, but it's not for everyone. It does get attractive when you see RC cars jump and, you know, cool flight footage, but it's very, very important to see what's behind the scenes and what's actually required to make those experiences happen. On YouTube, Instagram, it looks like all fun and games, but there is back-end logistics, and that's something to be very, very aware of before you get too deep into this. So that's it. Just wanted to kind of give you guys a warning out there. Again, I'm not trying to steer you guys away from FPV or RC cars, but you got to be aware of it. It's so important, because you don't want to get into it and then you're like, oh, what did I just do? So anyway, we'll see you in the next video. I know this video is kind of weird because it's kind of a vlog style. It's not what I normally do, but I thought this would be important to discuss. So here we are. We'll see you next time. Bye.